Qui sait depuis toutes ces années? C'est donc une idée originale. Je pense que c'est l'idée de Quentin. Il peut ouvrir un restaurant s'il le souhaite.
Thurman was a Hollywood star and the warrior queen in Kill Bill. She dressed pain like it was strength. On screen, no one could hurt her. Off screen, her life was not at all like a fairy tale. She finally talked about the 5 guys who changed her life when she was 55. Not with love, but with anger, lies, and broken hearts. There was more to those names than just old ones. They had kids together, were co-stars, and were heroes. Men who messed with her feelings like they were practicing a scene, and then left her to fix what they broke. There was one man at the top of that list that she still can't hear without her face tensing up. Quentin Tarantino is number 1. He wasn't just her boss. The man who said he knew her better than anyone else. He called her his muse, his fire, and his Beatrix child. Uma Thurman and Quentin Tarantino were tied together for 4 years by something Hollywood couldn't quite explain. A weird mix of smarts, trust, and danger. They wrote pulp stories together, and everyone saw her become famous. When Kill Bill came out, she turned into something else, a movie hero. But those movies had a darker side that not many people knew about. One scene on a dusty road in Mexico would change everything between them for good. That day, Tarantino told her to take the tourney by herself, said the shot had to look real. They said the car was fine. Uma was unsure. They said the seatbelt didn't work. The road was rough. She was scared. I smiled, Quentin. He told her to believe in him. They said it would be quick. You'll do great. She got in. The camera rolled and then there was chaos. The car sped down the narrow road, but the tires slid on the gravel as they went. It went out of control very quickly and hit a tree. The sound was very bad. Metal tore, glass broke, and her scream echoed through the room. Uma couldn't move after it stopped. Her knees and neck hurt so badly that her hands were shaking and her mind was blank. There was no longer a line between art and evil at that moment. No one spoke after the crash. The video stopped working. Quentin, the man who had called her family before, didn't say anything. The studio was shut up. Everyone kept saying how great they were working together, but she would always remember that moment. She thought about a scene over and over for years that never made it into the movie. When she finally did talk about it, she did so in a calm voice and slowly. He said sorry, she said. But the truth is, I don't feel forgiven. Behind her calm voice was pain that never really goes away, not from cuts or scrapes, but from being betrayed. One more time, Tarantino looked down before addressing the question he had been avoiding for years. He quietly said, I told her to do it. I believed I was right. I wasn't. I put her in danger. That will always bother me. His voice was broken when he tried to sound strong. His shaking for a moment said more than any words he could have used. Hollywood still talks about their relationship as iconic. But for Uma, it's a whole different story. She feels like she has a ghost following her around on the red carpet and during late-night interviews. When she hears his name, the gravel under her tire comes back to her mind. How heavy that silence was afterward. How trust can be lost in an instant. She never told him he was wrong. Never yelled. Never made a show out of their story. She didn't need to. It was her silence that spoke louder and more clearly than any story. It was the sound of someone who used to believe in magic but woke up in a bad dream. Now when she talks about peace, she really means space. Stay away from the man who made her immortal, and the event that almost killed her. They made art together, but now they have a scar. A scary warning that some shadows never go away, even in Hollywood's brightest lights. Ethan Hawke is number 2. He was more than a husband. She put the most faith in love in him, but he broke her trust in it. The start of their story was like a Hollywood movie. It was 1997. They met on the set of Gattaca. Both of them were rising stars with a lot of desire and admiration for each other. They got married after a year. After that came 2 beautiful children. They looked like the perfect pair on the red carpet. The kind of love that other stars wished they had but never got. Then 2003 came along and broke everything. There were burning rumors that Ethan had been cheating on his wife, having an affair with the young nanny while Uma was taking a movie. He didn't say it. She didn't say anything. But in Hollywood, silence is more powerful than any story. A lot of reporters came. Cameras then came out, Every look and every lack was proof. In an interview years later, Ethan would say, "It's embarrassing. Even when they say nice things, it's almost embarrassing." But it was too late for Uma. It wasn't just a secret betrayal. It was open to everyone. She was picked apart in tabloids and talked about behind the scenes, and she was made into a show she didn't ask to be in. There is power and calm behind them. She carried that broken heart around with her, the kind that changes how you trust for good, not just ending a marriage. The silence that followed the incident is what people remember most. In 2004, Uma asked for a divorce. The next year, the love story that had started in front of the camera had moved into courtrooms and talks about child custody. She seemed cool and collected on camera, but in interviews she showed a deeper pain. "I haven't said anything mean yet, and I'm not going to start now," she said in a steady voice. "It's terrible for my family." Her eyes showed how much she felt like she couldn't say. Uma told the truth in that line without calling it out. Ethan hadn't just lied to her. He made her look bad in front of their kids and everyone else. Friends said Uma never talked about him again after he got married again in 2008. When she thought about how she had been lied to, their two kids, Maya and Levon, became the bridge she had to cross. They are living reminders of a love that started with hope and ended with heartbreak. After 20 years, both of them carry themselves with the same quiet respect that their mother had, even though she was in pain. Even though they are nice in interviews and smile in public, there is a wound that is never really healed. Uma hides hers with quiet and ease. Still, anyone who really listens can hear it. The only thing she ever means when she talks about peace is space. Then there was Gary Oldman, the second name on her list, whose fire almost burned her to the ground. He was one of the most dangerous men she had ever fallen in love with. They met on the set of State of Grace in 1989. Uma was 18 years old, brave, interested, and drawn to big things. Gary was 31 years old, married to the British actress Leslie Manville, and already struggling with drug abuse and fame. His marriage fell apart in a few months, and he married Uma a year later. What happened next wasn't love. It was chaos that looked like desire. They fought in the streets of New York and drank champagne in their hotel rooms. They made up early in the morning and then fought again before breakfast. "We met when I was 18, Uma told Vanity Fair at one point. "It was a crazy love story that ended the way it should have. It wasn't being nostalgic. It felt good. All the flashing lights and red carpets didn't change the fact that Gary's anger and drug use ran their lives. Every fight turned into a scene that was too real, too painful, and too tiring to go through again." Uma's love wasn't just wild and young. That was the first time love turned into fear. Uma saw the change when it was quiet. The ones that show more than any reasoning could. Plans that were cancelled, calls that were not picked up, and the way John Cusack's voice became distant whenever the talk got close. By 2004, after several breakups and short reunions, the romance was over for good. She didn't say anything in public, but her silence showed that she was upset, tired and frustrated. Kuz was known as the actor for the thinking man because he was smart, thoughtful, and slightly rebellious. But there was something colder behind that smart charm. Not just with the camera did he need to be in charge. It got into their personal life, and he told them how to tell their story and how much of it the public could see. The kind of power made Uma feel suffocated. During a particularly tense conversation, she told him about stories going around in the news. "You make everyone think I'm being too dramatic," she asked. "Do you even care how I feel?" Because the answer, which was cool and sharp, showed everything. "I'm not the one making headlines, am I?" At that moment the end was clear. It hurt more than any claim that he didn't care. Over time, Cusack pulled away from the chaos of Hollywood and moved to Illinois to work on independent movies away from the attention of everyone else. Uma, on the other hand, slowly put her world peace back together. Her job, her family, and her peace of mind. But every time she talked about the independent film scene in the late 1990s, her voice had a hint of hurt that came from a guy she used to trust very much betraying her. Then there was another kind of heartbreak that hides behind beauty. Richard Gere is the fourth person on her list. The man who turned his back. The story began in 1996, when Gere was the height of Hollywood style, and Uma was at the top of her game. They looked great to everyone. The beautiful lead in Pretty Woman, and the tough main lady of today. They looked like a power couple whose lives were meant to be together. Off-screen though, the fairy tale fell apart quickly. Their relationship was looked at very closely. Every smile and look shared on the red carpet became public. While the press wrote about them as if they were royalty, they were really just two people who barely knew how to talk to each other. Gere's calm and careful personality clashed with Uma's fiery one. She wanted to connect and feel. He liked being calm and in charge. He was nice to be around in public. In private he was far away. It was said that Gere was spending more time on his film projects and charity work than with her. Uma felt like she was being ignored as a woman who wanted to be seen and cared for, not just as a lover. What looked perfect from the outside was falling apart in quiet, making her feel invisible and thrown away. In the end, the relationship ended quietly, without any drama or attention. But the quiet it left behind was important. Uma never said anything bad about him, but the thought of him stuck with her. There was a reminder of that hurtful experience under every poised interview and beautiful smile. It was a reminder that even the most charming guys can leave the deepest scars. Soon after, Uma Thurman and Richard Gere were back together in the same frame, this time as co-stars in Paul Schrader's 2024 movie Oh Canada. Gere, who is 75 years old now, played her husband in the movie. Even though their characters were close, the air between them was heavy with the weight of the past. People who watched closely said it was something else, even though it looked good on camera. A careful dance between two people who had too much to remember. Tensions that had been there since the 1990s never really went away. It only changed form. Uma was very careful as she approached the process. She knew how this kind of get-together should go. There were polite smiles, professional distance, and a silent understanding that some events were better not talked about. Gere, who was older and more reflective, often talked about death and life's meaning between takes. He told a reporter, "Sometimes I wonder what any of us would be doing in the last hours of our lives." It might have sounded thoughtful on paper, but people who knew Uma well could tell that his words were hollow. For Uma, the event wasn't about getting back together with anyone. It was about taking back her room. His calmness used to make her feel like he was bigger than her, but now she was stronger, smarter, and much less willing to forgive. Richard Gere might still be the world's idea of Hollywood style. In Uma's story, though, he stood for something cooler. There is grace without empathy and charm without truthfulness. The last name was the fifth and last one that most people didn't know. Robert Dairo, the rumored flame who didn't give any replies. In 1993, they met on the set of Mad Dog and Glory. Uma was still making her way in Hollywood. She was eager, interested, and ready to learn from one of the best actors living. Once Dairo got to work, he had a quiet power that could fill a room without saying a word. He was polite, detached, and respectful at first. The space between them started to feel planned, almost strategic. It was like he was seeing how close she could get before she was reminded of who was in charge. Uma tried to close that emotional gap when they were alone. "Do you even see me, or am I just part of the scene?" she asked him one time in a soft voice. The way Dairo answered was with the same cool detachedness that made him famous. "I see everything," he said, "but I act as I must." Most people would think it was smart. Uma thought it was a nice way of telling her that her feelings didn't matter. The press couldn't stay away from the tension between them. The news of an off-screen relationship spread like flames. Every magazine cover turns looks into rumors and expertise into a scandal. Uma, who was only just turning 20, found herself in a story she couldn't change, one that was written by guys, put out by strangers, and boosted by Hollywood's need for drama. It was typical of Dairo to keep quiet and not say anything. Uma kept her cool through the comments like she always does. But friends later told her that what really hurt her was how quickly her name became an aside in someone else's story. "Even though it was only a short time, that experience changed me. It taught her that praise could turn into disappointment, that respect could be a cover for manipulation, and that even Hollywood's most respected men could make a woman feel small." Over the next few years, Uma never said anything bad about Dairo in public, just like she never did about any of the others. But it was easy to see the trend. There were different kinds of bruises from each man. It was emotional, it was professional, and it was all memorable. Over time those scars turned into armor. There was proof that she could see through the act even in a world full of lies. Would you like me to write the last part of this piece? A thrilling ending that connects all 5 men and shows how Uma Thurman's experiences changed her ideas about love, fame, and power. It could be between 1,000 and 5,000 words written in the same style and tone. In a memorable moment on set, Uma finally broke the wall of silence that had been between her and Robert De Niro. She looked him straight in the eye and told him, "You don't have to ignore me to be great, Robert." The words were like smoke in the air. De Niro didn't answer. Instead he used one of his signature pauses, which was heavy, controlled and hard to read because he didn't say anything. That moment, that quiet, was the coldest thing Uma would ever remember. It was more than just a fight between 2 characters for her. The mismatch of power had been bothering her since she was young in Hollywood, and this was her chance to deal with it. He moved on with his job and reputation unharmed, but Uma carried the event with her like a silent scar. Being clear was what she held on to, not anger. She knew what respect looked like when it wasn't there. Over the next few years, De Niro's fame continued to grow and people in the business spoke highly of him. Uma, on the other hand, learned from her pain. She learned to keep her space and set limits that no amount of fame could cross. There was never a public fight, an explosive interview, or a tell-all story. Instead, there was a constant stress that hung over every memory of that movie. You can still see a flicker in Uma's eyes whenever the subject of the early 1990s comes up. Something stuck in her throat, a reminder of the lesson she had to learn the hard way. What do you think? What kind of mark did one of these 5 guys leave? If someone hurt you with silence instead of words, could you forgive them? Leave your ideas in the comments and stay tuned for more Hollywood stories that aren't told in public.